Good afternoon. So we're here with Deb Newquist, and we're going to just talk about some of her experiences on being a member of ALCA, formerly National Association of Professional Geriatric Care Managers, in celebration of the 35th anniversary. So Deb, if you would just tell us a little bit about yourself and what your practice was and how you got involved in the association.
Well, I'm happy to talk about the association. I am in California, and many years ago saw the need for families who were struggling with elder care, and they didn't really know how to identify resources, how to evaluate them, how to navigate systems. And I had training in social work, and I was always being approached because I had training in geriatrics by people at random events, cocktail parties, professors. So I wanted to start a practice, and I didn't know, I kind of had this idea of a family resource center. I didn't want to be nonprofit because I'd already been in that game and looked for grants and knew what that was all about. So I started doing a fee for service for my time, just like a therapist does, an accountant does, people who charge for their time, for their professional services. Then one day I read in the paper about an organization that was forming of people similar. And I went, I think, to the first big conference, but I think it was the second actual conference, because the organization originated with a group in New York, which I think you know, and mainly New York. I think Rona Bartlestone from Florida was in that, somehow got connected, but it was largely a group of men and women, but primarily women in New York, who came together and sort of formed the first conference, I think. So I learned of it after that and went to the Philadelphia conference, which was, I think, the first national conference.
And what year was that, Deb? Do you remember?
God, I think 1988. And just was so excited and had really found a niche, because I had this concept, and it turns out about people all around the country were doing the same thing. And what happened then, as we were just so enthused after coming together and meeting other people and learning from each other and sharing models and things, that those of us from the West said, golly, we don't want to wait another year. So a bunch of us banded together and we formed the Western chapter. So I was one of the founding members of the Western chapter, and we sat in B.J. Spittler's living room in San Diego, and there were about a little shy of a dozen of us who decided we wanted to meet, we wanted to get together more than once a year. So we'd do an alternate season from the national conference, and that we would, I think there was another chapter somewhere we modeled ourselves off of. So we formed the chapter. I was the first vice president. BJ was the president. Can't remember the other officers. And so was involved at that level. And then after that, went to conferences, I think, every year, maybe with the exception when I had a baby one year, every year for the next 20-some years or more. I'm now retired, and my practice evolved from just being in my bedroom, actually not my bedroom, but my office upstairs. This is where it started. And then I got big enough to have an office and to have staff and to have care managers working for me. And then we ultimately added home care. And that was due to a conference where we had a session where several of us compared models of care managers and home care and how they work together, and the pros and cons of being integrated versus more of a broker model. And I learned some of the benefits of it, and become less worried about some of the conflict of interest issues, because our clients had been sort of asking for it in a sense, because they were hoping that we could bring in our own team and sort of just take care of everything, make it more seamless. So that's what we did. So effectively, we set up what I came to think of as customized assisted living facilities at people's homes, where we brought in what was needed, as care managers do, but we provided the home care. But we also helped with daily money management, because I wanted to keep control of the money to make sure that there wasn't any risks to the clients of caregivers managing their funds, or them handing them a credit card or something like that. So we put control on that. And we had money management services. And anyway, so we had a variety of services, and I don't know, I had 100 staff, I think, and 40-some homes when I ultimately was approached by a national company who was in the developmentally disabled field. They provided community-based services to persons with developmental disability, named ResCare. and they saw the similarities of frailer, or not frail, but people who needed supports, home supports. And so they wanted to expand, but they didn't really understand aging. So I became their director of geriatric services. They bought my company, but I became the national director of geriatric services for them. And then my assistant director took over as the director of our company. Anyway, I went around the country then and helped develop care management. They already had home care and care management and home care for them. In the meantime, I was part of GCM, and I was always active, partly because I was dedicated to the cause, and partly because it was helping me in my practice, because there were things like I needed to do PR for myself. So I was one of the early PR chairs of the association, and sort of help write press releases, press packets. I designed the original logo with a local artist, stationery, all those things, because we didn't have staff in the early days. And then we hired later on an executive director, and I mean, it grew. So it was a really ground up, very highly volunteer. And I became on the board. I was on the board more than once. And ultimately in 2005, I was the president of the National Association. Through those years, being a member provided opportunities to learn about other models, how other people were doing things, both in the sessions, as well as in the sidebar conversations, as well as in the bar, the coffee shop, where people around the country were sharing what they were doing, and people would talk about, well, how do you price this out? Or, you know, are you not price fixing, but just so people get a sense of what works and doesn't work. And we weren't in competition. There were later on people in competition in your own area. At that point, we were all colleagues and pretty openly sharing. And then some of them started joining together to make companies together and things. But it was a very supportive thing, and it was an opportunity to learn and be involved. It helped with my practice tremendously, both in terms of models, both in terms of just learning from other people's mistakes, you know, kind of fashioning out new ideas, but also referrals. I mean, and not so much because the people that are involved in the association are often in leadership in their own communities, and they then run into people who have parents in Colorado or parents in California. And so I got a lot of very, very good cases from my fellow care managers who knew me, had known me over the years, saw what I did at the association, and trusted that I would be a person they'd feel comfortable referring a family to. And for me, I got involved locally with the Alzheimer's Association and things, because it was also a way to keep your finger on what was happening in terms of new medications and new, you know, regulations and new things, just the things you need to know to be good. And so I was on the board of the Alzheimer's here locally and things, as are so many of our care managers. So for me, it was tremendous. So as I was saying to you, it became also friends, lifelong friends. And so as I sold my practice, and then I taught for a while and I consulted, but there was nobody paying me to go to the conferences anymore. So I started pulling away, and I wasn't running a practice. And I decided I didn't want to do that part-time, because I wanted the freedom to come and go without being called while I was on vacation, which sometimes happens, even if you have staff. But then I realized all those people that I just had such a close connection with, I didn't want to lose that. So we've formed various ways. I've invited some friends that I've known over. We have a house in upstate New York, a lake house, and they come in the summers for a little bit of time, and we almost have an aging seminar. We talk about issues. At one point we were talking about the trends in the organization and things, but now that we're all sort of retired from it, we talk about other things. And then there's a group that is formed of kind of retired people who were some of the founders, and we've dubbed ourselves Women Extraordinaire in Retirement Days. So we call ourselves the Weirdos. So the weirdos are now having these big Zoom meetings, and last year we went to Arizona to do 2 grand all together. So it's a source of also these friendships with just amazing people, entrepreneurial, you know, good-hearted people. So it's been. So
you really have a unique perspective from the beginning, truly the beginning on the West Coast, and all through the years of the evolution of the profession, of the association.
Yeah.
And obviously it seems like it was an extremely valuable experience for you professionally, and then now
Yeah.
so personally with a sort of a family of sorts.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
which is, how wonderful is that? Really, that's terrific. That's,
Really, it is. And, you know, I think because, well, a lot of us, I mean, you guys are in a different era of the association, so we were forming it, but you're re-envisioning it. So like I was there, although not part of the process, when the name changed. And then there's the whole new discussion of branding. And frankly, for me, I thought, oh, been there, done that. Because we were doing that in the beginning. I thought, I don't want to do that again. But, you know, so it's kind of saying, here we are now, your generation of leaders. Here we are now. Where do we want to go? What are our challenges? Oh, COVID, I pray for you all.
yeah.
And there's a thrill to that. It's frightening. It's exciting. But there's a need that you're filling that is unique. I don't know how big the association will ever be, because it is a sort of a niche thing. And as much as we'd like to, I think, serve a variety of communities, the reality is you have to pay your staff and you have to make a living. I mean, it's not like we're making giant profits. You have to make a living. And so you have to have people who are willing and able and understand paying for services. And that, to me, is a particular facet of what we do. There are services, though, of these kind that have evolved over time in public sectors, although as the budgets ebb and flow, and they certainly don't do what we do. I mean, they're not anywhere near us.
No, they do some similar things, but not exactly. But you know what? There's so much need out there that I think there's something for everybody. So just in closing, so you were president in 2005, and then when did you actually retire, Deb?
Probably around 2014.
Oh, so not that many years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
and I kind of gradually retired. I mean, I stopped teaching. I taught at USC at the gerontology school for a few years there. And in 2014, I think that was the last time I did that. And so then, since then, I have been doing political things.
Okay. Well, that's a whole other discussion, right? So,
right.
All right. Well, it's a pleasure and an honor to meet you and to get to talk to you a little bit in celebration of the 35th anniversary, and hopefully there'll be 35 more years and then some. There'll be new people, new faces, but the mission is there, and the need is there, and hopefully there'll be others to pick up from where.
Yeah, I think it's a worthwhile investment of time.
Yeah,
in all respects. Yeah,
for sure.
Good luck.
Okay. All right.